You're listening to the Building and Branding Podcast, brought to you by Virtual Vision. I'm your host, Amanda Stichter. On this show, I sit down with experts in the restoration and home services industry to hear their stories of how they built their businesses to succeed and stand out. Our conversations will uncover the challenges they've faced, the strategies they've employed, and the pivotal moments that defined their paths. We'll also dive into the critical importance of branding and marketing in this field, sharing insights on how to create a compelling brand that resonates with customers and stands out in a competitive market. Join us as we blend practical advice with inspiring real-life stories, providing you the tools and motivation to craft precision and build a lasting brand. Welcome to Building and Branding. Let's get started. In this episode of Building and Branding.
Start with the end in mind. You start with the dream. You're sitting up at night, watching the ceiling fan at night, but then the real world kicks in and it becomes work, and you forget those nights that you sat there and told yourself you could do it. Entrepreneurial depressions that start to create hopelessness and lack of focus. We ignore the canary. The signs start to show up in our health and our attitudes, our relationships. Your canary stops singing, but you're still trying to work through it. You're fighting an invisible monster. And I got to know a lot of farmers. You have insects, you have weather, any number of issues, but they don't have a bad year and then just throw up. If you're a restoration company, don't stop being a restoration company, because it's going to come back and people are going to need food from farmers. If all the farmers quit, where are we getting our food from?
Well, hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Building and Branding Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Stichter. Today, I'm really excited to be joined by someone that, every time I talk to, I feel like I get really good things to chew on and just really good thoughts, and is always so encouraging. So today I am joined by Klark Brown. Klark introduces himself as the owner of Restoration Advisors. I'm looking at my notes because you gave yourself a lot of names. Coach, mentor, business owner, dad, industry advocate. And I'll let you kind of speak a little bit to say a little bit about who you are too, Klark. So introduce yourself to our listeners.
Thank you. Thanks, Amanda. I know we have, how long has this been in the making? 2 years?
A while.
We've been talking about, it's like we were letting it grow like wine and get better, but we've been saying we got to make this happen. We both had a lot going on. So thank you for having me on. I've been looking forward to this all week. We saw each other recently and said, yeah, we're doing it. We're
making it happen.
So good enough introduction. Klark Brown. I'm currently, one of the things I do is I own a company called Restoration Advisors, and that we do just that. We are coaches and mentors, less consultants if you get real specific, but that's the term a lot of people use in this space. But we just help. I like to cover it like this, Amanda. What I like to do, and I think what maybe my power is I help people from an outside view with the things that I know. I don't know a lot of things. You certainly know a lot more about marketing than I do, but if it's in the realm of what I know, I can look at this objectively, help you build the business. I like to build businesses of people's dreams, because I think that's what entrepreneurs do first, is they dream, and then they figure out, well, what do I need to get to that dream? But then when you get in the middle of it, it becomes a job. And what I like to do is we like to clear the way. You're in Wisconsin, you've got snow. I'm a snowblower. I'm going to clear the path so you can go where you need to go without having to do the digging and the going. So that's usually operational. That's usually not so much. I wouldn't say I'm a mindset coach, but I sure find myself talking a lot about the mind. But again, that's what a coach does. Is I'm on the outside. You told me what you wanted to do, where you wanted to go, how you wanted to do it. You're off track. Let me just help you get back on track, because you don't see it. The blinders are on. So my team and I do that through live coaching. We have community type coaching with masterminds. We have online courses that came about during COVID that are wildly popular, that I never thought I would know how to do an online course, but some people learn that way, and it's been a very valuable thing. So that's beyond that. I mean, I do believe I work for the industry. Not everything pays us a salary that we do,
Hmm.
but I'm asked to be on podcasts and panels, and I like to contribute, because when I'm contributing to things like our industry, I'm learning. When
Yeah.
I teach, I learn again, and I learn other people's perspectives. So you might see, I have a podcast too. I'm not recording it right now, but we have disaster podcasters. So that's one medium. But basically, I'm just an industry coach. I was a contractor for, I've been in this business now 22 years, and
Wow.
17 of those 17 were as a contractor, just like everybody that, is probably listening to this in the restoration space.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I love what you said a little bit about yourself of just like you want to give back to the industry. And I think what I love about that, Clark, is you just like exude that feeling and that desire. You're one of the few people that I feel like I talk to, and you never have an ulterior motive in our conversation. Like, what I see and what I hear from you is like that's Clark, and it's real, and it's just like your heart pouring out what you're passionate about in this industry. And from the day I met you, that is how I felt about you. But I couldn't really put it into words until you just said like your goal is just to give back.
Yeah.
You do
Well,
it
thank
so
you.
well.
Thank you for saying that. I'll tell you, Amanda, my favorite word, and this will kind of
Ooh,
sum up this mindset: reciprocity. I have
yes.
always had success with giving and you get. If you aren't a giving person, people that you need to know don't approach you. So I,
Mm,
from a very early age, found out that relationships matter,
mm-hmm,
marketing, branding,
mm-hmm.
relationships matter, and be giving. Because that's trust. So I think
It
that
is.
wraps up. Thank you. I'm glad it comes across that way, because you want to be authentic. And in
Mm-hmm.
this world in 2024 that we're recording this, not everyone that looks like they're giving are really giving. So it's more
It's a little
over a long period of time.
self-serving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So over a long period of time, if you see someone that you said that they're usually pretty giving, probably are, because you can't fake it for a generation.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, you're right on. I mean, and I do think that you say that very well. And you just, I can remember the day I met you, actually, sort of. I was thinking when I was preparing for this, like, when was the first time that I actually met you, which I think might have been a couple years ago. One of my former colleagues might have introduced us, like in passing. But
Hmm.
what I remember, you'll have to tell me if you remember this. A couple years ago, I decided, you know what, I'm just going to branch out. And instead of sitting at my booth at one of the industry shows, I'm going to go with my microphone and just walk up to people and ask them a question.
I remember
And
that.
you're on it.
Yeah, I remember now, and I
And
think that was the RIA event, one of them, a couple of years
yes,
ago.
it was. And I knew who you were from afar, just not super well before that. But I remember your answer. And I remember being like, this guy's really cool. Like, he seems really down to earth. He seems really legitimate. I gotta talk to him more.
Well, Amanda, say that so my kids will hear you. I'm really cool. Tell my kids.
Right? Someday
No,
our kids will think we're cool.
I remember that. I remember, like, I liked that you approached me and said, I don't have any ulterior motive. So you were the same way as me in that way. It's like, I just want to hear some voices that spontaneity. I want to hear some
Yeah.
just off the cuff. I'm going to throw you a question and tell me what you think about it. So, and I've
Yeah.
known your company. I think we share some clients in the
Yeah.
space.
Hmm.
And I know I've met Andy. I've known Andy for a few years that was there, but yeah. So, but I like that first time, and I think that set the stage for our
Yeah.
friendship on since then on.
I think so too. Absolutely. Um, so one of the big things that I'm really passionate about, and I always want to spend a little bit of time talking in these episodes, is as you mentioned, there is so much power in, what's the right way to say it? Like the vision or the dream that started and got you where you are today. I,
Mhm.
so, little backstory. Before coming to Virtual Vision, I kind of accidentally started my own marketing company. This was several years ago. And my passion in it was I want to help bring entrepreneurs' dreams to life because entrepreneurs get this like big dream, like you said, but then now you got to like carry it out. Someone's got to come and help you clear the way to make that vision a reality. So my question for you in that is, how did your story start in this industry? Like, what was your big thing that made you say, you know what, I've been a contractor. So what did that look like? And then what changed that made you say, you know what, I think now I want to do this. I think now I want to be that, as you said,
Yeah.
snowblower that clears the path for someone else and kind of guides them.
Yeah. I mean, I'll go all the way back to my youth, and my grandfather was a very big inspiration to me. A whole story I talk and write about my grandfather a lot. And he just always told me that if you are of service of people,
Mm,
you'll never feel, you might not always feel like you're working. You know, there'll be hard days, but you will get more than money from the relationship. So it kind of always stayed with me. Most things that he said did, some that he didn't, but that did. And our family business growing up in my first half of my career was in the dry cleaning and laundry space. So, you know,
really? Okay.
having a retail dry cleaners, that was our family business. And, you know, when my parents were alive, it was a pretty sizable enterprise in Texas.
Hmm.
You know, I branched out in my own and I bought a few of my own, and I've lived all over the place. And that's, again, you're of service. And I had to reconnect. What my grandfather told me is, what's your purpose to be a dry cleaner? Now, you don't think like that,
Mm,
but you're like, my job is to make possibly people look and feel their best so they can do what they love to do more. So I
mm,
was serving people by cleaning their clothes and pressing and having creases and starch or whatever it was, so that they didn't have to do it. They had their time back, but they also felt fresh and professional. So I always latched onto that. And that was part of our marketing. That was like, you know, we're going to make you look better. But that morphed a few things. Retail turned into this restoration space. We had textile cleaning, they call it now.
hmm.
I had a whole enterprise of that, built that up as its own separate company, and that was acquired. And
Okay.
that was my first. I've had 11 businesses, not including a lemonade
Wow.
stand. Yeah, lemonade stand is one of them. No private equity bought my lemonade stand. Um,
What?
I'm still waiting, but so I exited the dry cleaning space because I'd really just, I mean, 20 years of that, 15 years of that. I was like, and it was like, it's what I tried to do out of college to not do. I tried to avoid dry cleaning. Went to
Hmm.
college, came out, and where did I end up? I was
Dry cleaning.
ironing clothes. I used to tell people we're the best place in town to drop your pants. Um, but so I said, okay, now I've sold this. I've got a few dollars. What do I want to do? And you would
Hmm.
laugh at some of the ideas of, you know, what I was going to do. And I will tell you, at now age 52, the wise age of 52, I haven't always been a visionary. I have more been an implementer, a worker, a task-driven, project-driven. You put something in front of me, and I'll execute it. I would
Yeah.
say something kicked me off the rails, and I'm the opposite now. I don't like the task as much as the vision. But I guess some of my clients were disaster restoration companies, which are the ones that we now serve. And one of them, who ended up being a very big mentor of mine, still a good friend, said, "Clark, why don't you join us?" This is in 2002, and our business is exploding, and we need smart people. And I'm like, well, why are you talking to me? So I got into the business, and I worked for some people for a while. You know, this person, Pete, said, "You give me 10 years, and you'll be able to write your own ticket." Well, I gave him 8. He says I still owe him 2. Um, but I stayed in the industry. I went to another company that gave me a lot bigger opportunities, and I was just like
Yeah.
stacking the wins. And I started traveling internationally, and the jobs got bigger, and we did bigger things. And I was learning that, you know, I didn't, you know, lead a team instead of running a project and those kind of things.
Hmm. Hmm.
And started my own restoration company in Houston, and it was acquired again.
Okay.
It was built it up. And at that point, this was 2015, Amanda, I was like, I don't think this is what I want to do the rest of my life. I have conquered so many mountains. I don't know that I'd been to Everest, but I've been to McKinley, and I've done that. I've got the T-shirt, I've got the scars, I've got the PTSD from Katrina. I really do, by the way.
Sure.
When I go to New Orleans, I get a little jittery, but
That's
I
fair.
missed a lot of, like a lot of people that are going to be listening to this. I missed some incredible points of my kids and family's life trying to pursue this big dream. Um, and I was at, this is a funny, I'll sum it up. I was at coffee and breakfast with a close friend of mine here in Richmond, Virginia. And I was like, what do I do next, Rob? And he's like, well, what do you do most that you love to do? And I said, people call me for advice all the time, text me, call me. And I said, I wonder what it'd be look like to be an industry consultant. But I said, but I don't feel like I know enough to do that. He literally spit his coffee on me, Amanda. He had a mouthful of coffee and I was wearing a whitish shirt and he spit it all over me. We still laugh about it. And he goes, what are you talking about? He goes, when I have a question about restoration, you're the only person I think of to call. So Restoration Advisors was launched, and I got into this first as helping companies put restoration divisions in their company. It was kind of like a little niche as we do
Sure.
construction. And,
Yeah.
but it grew and grew and grew. And I've always had an affinity for small to medium sized company. I came from a small
Mm.
town.
Hmm.
I love the dreamers. A big company, they kind of have singular focus of it's a
Hmm.
spreadsheet, it's balance sheets and P&Ls and forecasting and stuff. But I like the grinder in Arkansas and Salt Lake that says, I've got a dream and I want
Yeah.
to help people. A lot of people became restoration companies because they had a flood in their own house and they're like, they're charging what for doing what? That's a good business.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so I just kind of like honed in on, I want to help small to medium sized restoration companies do better, run a better, smoother, efficient company so they can help more people get out of the business so they can grow it. And so, but I tell every client, Amanda, is start with the end in mind. You mentioned it. You start with the dream. You're sitting up at night, watching the ceiling fan at night, and you're just ideating all these. This would be cool. This would be awesome. I would love this. But then the real world kicks in, and it becomes
Yeah.
work, and you
Yeah.
forget. And it's you forget those nights that you sat there and told yourself you
Oh,
could do it.
yes. Oh my gosh. This is why we get along so well right here. We're like speaking the same language
Hmm.
because that's like my big push of helping so many companies start with this like the dream, the like
Hmm.
I can do this, the oomph, and at some point your dream, your fun, the thing you were striving towards has now become your career and it's hard. And you forget why you started in the first place. You forget why that dream was so motivating to you. And so I don't even like saying I love that you said that doesn't even express the joy because I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I love listening to people identify that moment. Because eventually, if you ask enough questions of someone who even has forgotten it, they might have a hard time starting to tell their story. But you just keep listening and you just let them talk. And at some point, that smile like
You keep pulling it out.
creeps up.
You
Right.
keep pulling it out of them. Yeah.
And you can see that like glimmer of joy start to come back out. And I'm like, that's what I want to hear. Like that.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know what's funny, Amanda, is and we do this a lot. Of course, I do, you do. But when they're in the middle of it, when they're in what they, in the military they call it in the suck, in the sandbox, in the like everything that probably could go wrong, and not so different. I'm sure we'll approach when we're recording this. Our industry is kind of in a slow period. It's not dead, but
mm-hmm.
and the last thing you really want to hear is somebody trying to get you upbeat. Like, when you're mourning the
Yeah.
passing of people, you don't want
Yeah.
to hear that if this all you need is time. It's like, I know I need time, but today I want to be
Today it
mad. I want to be
sucks.
angry.
Yeah.
I want to be afraid today. And
Yeah.
so part of my thing was learning to just people have to get through it to get through it.
Mm-hmm.
But there is on the other side of it, there's that constant voice. And that's why we make people what we have is a one pager where they have to tell us what their goals are. Like, why are you
Mm-hmm.
building a business? And that goes into a lot of things, but that page is a Mount Rushmore reminding you like, oh,
Yeah.
I can't deny that that's what I said. Now, if it's changed, we have a lot of work to do. If
Yep.
you now have a different goal, but
Yes.
probably it's not the same thing. So,
Right. Right. Mm.
yeah.
That's really good. Uh, so
let's dive in a little bit to, you and I actually had this conversation in an email exchange earlier this week too, and you mentioned it now, but this industry has really kind of like, this year's been hard. It
Yeah.
it has been those, like, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had this year of customers who they are in those, like, today just sucks. Like, where are all the jobs this year? Where is, and it's sort of created this, it's just a very unique challenge this year for companies and the conversations that we're having with them. And I'm sure that you're having with them too. Talk to me a little bit about that perspective. How is the industry doing this year? How have you approached those conversations with those that you work with?
Well, I'll tell you, Amanda, I think that as your listeners, and you might not know or know, I don't know, but myself and a few other restoration advocates or alchemists developed this thing called the Restoration Rebels years back. And while today it has a different persona, it's a little different than what the genesis was. But these things, the plight of our industry, and some of it is our industry is not a recognized trade. We have some real industry credibility issues that add to it, but we have outliers like insurance companies. We have lots of different things that contribute to this. Is not an easy business. It's also not something that everybody needs every day. It's kind of like a funeral home. Eventually your people will need it, but they don't think they will. So marketing to that is obviously a challenge. But so I think we've got a bulldozer that's been pushing a load and building banks up. You're going to love this snow talk. You've been building a snow wall. And I think it's just started to culminate with where we are with our economy and maybe geopolitical issues going on. And I think, and I've actually labeled this, I've actually written about this now, I've actually spoke about it twice, on entrepreneurial depression. It's just a compound of lots of things that start to create hopelessness and lack of focus. The answers are still the answers. We can all overcome most of what we have in front of us, business-wise, relationship, if we do the things. But it's hard to see those. It's hard to get the energy up to do those things when you're still fighting all these other fights. So I have had a lot of these conversations, and I think like anybody that's in the adjacent to a restoration industry like you and I, it's affected our business. I mean, people have to look at where they're spending their money, and they have to be wise, and they have to be critical, because they have to save the ship. And I would recommend, as a coach, I tell people, you should be cutting the things that aren't going to sink you. And now we could both say that we will, without marketing, without coaching, without vision and wisdom and stuff, long term, you're going to feel it. But for today to survive, reptilian mode, but it's been depression. I think for some, it's been compounding. Another topic we don't talk about right away, but the M&A, the acquisitions have been happening because people are looking. It's like, I'm burnt out. I don't love this anymore. I love what it could be, but I don't love what it is, and I don't know how to get out of it. So maybe exiting is my answer. So those are conversations I have, and I remind everyone the story, because health is important to me. I'm not a super health nut, but I do believe that we probably only have this body vessel one time in our life. We should take care of it like a Chevy. We should change the oil. And there's a story about Canary in the coal mine, and I talk about coal miners. The air quality was terrible in the coal mines, and they didn't really necessarily see it right away. You didn't see it for years ahead, but they would take a canary down with them, which would be singing and chirping and making noise. But when it got quiet, that was a signal. Let's pack up and get out of here, because it's too bad for the bird. It's too bad for us. The problem is humans, and this is way outside of our industry. We ignore the canary. The signs start to show up in our health and our attitudes, our relationships, and unfortunately, alcohol abuse maybe, and things like that. Those are all signs of your canary is singing or stop singing, but you're still trying to work through it, and you're fighting an invisible monster. So I know that's a really deep way to answer a lot of what you're saying, but we're going to be good. We're going to be fine in this industry. I was talking to some guys that remember 2008, the big crash. It sucked. At the time, there was a lot of people who didn't make it, but they didn't die. they're still
Right.
here. Their dream shifted to something else. So
Yeah.
I don't know that this is an '08 size situation, but I think that it feels that way to some people.
Mm.
And
Yeah, absolutely.
if we can't imagine getting out of it, we're going to be miserable while we're in it, I think. But if you know that if I swim 42 more strokes and there's a lifeboat, those 42 strokes of swimming aren't as hard. But if you know there's nothing over there, you're not
Yeah.
you're not too excited about swimming the rest of the way, and you might just float.
No more guessing. No more hours lost doing manual calculations or data gathering. Every minute spent on calculations is $1 lost for your business. Say goodbye to endless spreadsheets and hello to precise ROI insights. Introducing Virtual Vision's one-of-a-kind Leads to Jobs tool. The Leads to Jobs platform seamlessly connects to your job management system, matching leads to actual job data, notifying you of missed opportunities, and providing you with accurate ROI insights. No other tool on the market offers the comprehensive capabilities and transformative impact of Leads to Jobs. Save valuable time and resources by eliminating manual calculations and data chaos. With Leads to Jobs, you can focus on what matters most, closing leads and growing your business. No more guessing. No more relying on incomplete data. No more manual calculations. Leads to Jobs return on investment reporting. See transparent results and get a greater return.
If you know that if I swim 42 more strokes and there's a lifeboat, those 42 strokes of swimming aren't as hard. But if you know there's nothing over there, you're not too excited about swimming the rest of the way, and you might just float.
What is the lifeboat? What do you say to someone who says, listen, I'm sure it's out there, but I don't know if it's 42 strokes away or 142 strokes away, and I don't know if there's going to be room by the time I get there.
Yeah.
What do you say to them?
Well, I think the easy answer is because I do believe in businesses. I believe that if you're going to run a business, you can be a dreamer, but you've got to have an operating vessel, and that's
Absolutely.
And if you can't make it work, you should have a partner, or you should have people on your team that's their skill set. I think a lot of people are in the position they are, because I do know people that are not slow. I do know people that are thriving, that have actually exceeded their goals in the midst of this.
Yes.
I think a lot of this might be self-inflicted to a degree. You can't help that. We don't look in the rear view as much, other than just learning from it. But let's don't let it happen again. But I do tell people that people are going to have floods. I think we might have a really rocky winter, which we don't love to have people have turmoil, but winter means broken pipes. It means different issues. And I think that I can vision that where we were in 22 and 23 is we have more work than we know what to do with, and we can't find people. Well, now people are looking for jobs, and we don't have them. But I think we're going to be back. It's going to flip flop, and we're going to be busy again.
Sure.
And if we are in the middle of this recession and we cut people, because a lot of my clients are eliminating overhead because they have to. We got to do what's best for the boat. And they're losing people that they weren't bad performers. They just wasn't worth enough work. So they're going to need them back. And are they going to be there when they try to reach out to them to come back? But I would just tell people that never in history have things not worked out for most people. I think that, the Great Depression there's some stories written, Amanda, about the Great Depression, about how many companies grew and thrived after that. And I will tell you, in my case, my team, we had a huddle on Monday. We always do best when we're cornered like we are. When we get a little worried, we get very smart. We start ignoring things we've been ignoring, and we start doing things we have to do just to survive. And we all have to share a little bit of that. Those are the things I would say to people. Now, the leads, you can't help it. You're not doing anything wrong for the most part. You could be marketing better, but people are filing less claims. I mean, Xactimate, the data groups say claim volume is down, which the reciprocal effect is you're all going to feel that. So that's not your fault.
Absolutely.
So
Right.
don't take blame for things that aren't yours. Focus on what you can control, which is now is a good time to call Amanda and just focus on your marketing. And again, different types of marketing.
Different types. Absolutely.
Different types. It's not one type that works. It's because not everybody buys the same, reads the same, and enjoys the same thing. So that's what I would tell people is this is an opportunity, as scary as it is, if you can hold on and not quit. If all the memes in the world that say don't quit, if you can believe that and not do it, the people that aren't strong will go away. I was telling Mike Casino this earlier on a text. It's like, this tends to hurt a little bit. We all agree that we're oversaturated. This is kind of like the equalizer. And the people that don't have the grit, they'll go do something else, crypto, real estate, whatever. And you'll come back to more leads per capita for the ones that are left. So those are the optimistic things that I like to remind people. And, they may not hear it today, but in a couple of days or in a couple of weeks, they'll be like, I've really been a drama queen. I'm going to make it through this. It's going to be tough, but I'm going to make it through. I think people have those internal conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. There's two metaphors that it made me think of while you were sharing that. And I might not say this with like exact scientific accuracy, so I feel like I should give it that preface. When you think of a wildfire, which some of the companies in this industry are in areas where they are going in and cleaning up those situations. And it's a devastating thing that happens. But when you can see past that like initial devastation, those forests actually grow back healthier. Like there is scientific data that the soil becomes so rich for future growth. It's hard to see past that charred like branch that's there. But underneath all of that, something new is growing. And I think it's important to see that in these seasons, just like you said, like we will recover, but you have to see past that like broken. You just can't see the seedlings coming up in the ground yet.
I love that metaphor because it's inevitable.
It is.
That's going to happen.
It is. The other metaphor that it made me think of was one that you and I talked about in person last time we saw each other, because I expressed to you, like, it's been a hard year. It's been hard on our business because and I'm sure you feel it too, what is the first thing that when people are trying to cut overhead, and I don't blame them when they have to by any means. I mean, sometimes you just got to go for what are the first and quick things I can cut. Well, that tends to be marketing or probably like coaching. And yet, those are the things you need the most to sustain you and get you moving well into the next season. I'm a big proponent of like marketing is not just the quick wins that we bring in right now for your business. You need that, definitely, but you also need the long-term strategy that will build you like legacy level success to get through these seasons, because there's been these seasons in the past, there's one right now, and guess what? There's going to be another one down the road. Like you said, it's inevitable. And you shared a metaphor, and hopefully you remember it, about gardening relating to like cutting your efforts. If you remember it, can you share it? I loved the way you worded it.
Well, so going back to my grandfather, his nickname, and everybody called him Tractor Brown. He sold John Deere tractors for 62 years. It's the only job he had beside the U.S. Army, but the U.S. government. And he, a lot of our talks and our mentoring that I would ride around him to sell track. To him, selling was just riding around and sitting in barns. And I got to know a lot of farmers. And you have insects, you have weather, you have pesticides, you have any number of issues like we do in our business, right? They have them and they have no control of them over most of them. But they don't have a bad year and then just this is all they've got. I mean, most farmers, if you know anything about farming, everyone says if you own 100,000 acres, you're rich. Now, you're land rich, but you probably don't have two pennies to rub together if they miss the harvest by a week. And I know some of this Wisconsin talk, but it's not a reason just to say, well, I'm just not going to plant soy next year. I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to show them. You gotta, like you said, there is some nutrients that if you have a failed crop, if you till those into your soil, your soil will be richer. So make lemonade out of the lemons, but stay farming. If you're a farmer, don't stop farming. If you're a restoration company, don't stop being a restoration company, because it's going to come back and people are going to need food from farmers. So if all the farmers quit, where are we getting our food from?
Exactly.
And it's a need, it's a necessity. And what we do is important. In restoration, restore people's properties, their belongings, their mental state. I mean, we can talk a lot about people go through trauma. When my house flooded one time, and knowing what I know, I still kind of freaked out. So what we do is important. You need to be the expert that people need, that they don't know they need. But farming is a way. Like, you can be hunting. I think that there's a balance. You can be a hunter farmer. You've got to go out and get cash flow. You've got to go get some leads. And that's kind of what your pay-per-click is, that a little bit. You buying leads from lead generation. Those things exist, and they have a place. Maybe even TPAs and program work, right? Everyone knows I'm not a fan, but I'm not a fan of people going broke on principle either. If you've got to do some work. But farming is grow the best plants you can, use the best seeds, treat it the best, allow it to have water and sunlight, do your best, and it will usually take care of you and others that you want to choose. So I think that's kind of what we were talking about. And I think a business is a garden. No one started a business in year one and skyrocketed to the top. There might be exceptions. I hope some people will comment and tell me otherwise. I love those stories, but most businesses take, how long, Amanda? 5+ years.
Well, most don't make it past the 5-year mark, period.
A lot. The statistics are against you. But I know people in this space that said it was 12 years before I quit going to the jobs and doing estimates.
Yeah.
So that's some little preparation, saying that's why you need to love what you're doing. It's gonna suck if you don't. But it's gardening is busted hands, broken tractors, locust, hail, rain, no rain. So But if you love farming, if it makes you feel great, and you know how rare that is, of people to actually grow food to feed other people, it's pretty spectacular if you think about it. Then you just stay farming. You have bad years, and then some years you have, I'm out of grain bins because I have an overabundance. I have a new problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. It does come full circle.
I think that's what we were talking about in that metaphor a little bit.
It was, and that was perfect. And see, these are the reasons why I just love talking to you, because it's like, I just feel like you're a wealth of knowledge, but you can portray it to someone who goes, I guess I hadn't thought about it that way before. And
this might be a new monthly show for us. We might be like Kelly and Regis or something. But just see what the people. Listen, I like to say everything's an opportunity. I don't know what's going to happen next sometimes, but I want to go back for a minute to your marketing. I have a friend that owns a car dealership, and car dealerships they're having their own issues. People, the used car, new car thing is really wild. But if you have a car dealership, and I know this is going to be adjacent to our industry, but if you have a car dealership and you sell out, people are going to eventually have some money again, and they're going to want to go buy the new cars. And the truth is, all of us, we have to admit that not really many people care. If you disappear, there's another car lot, and they're going to drive past the empty lot where you were. But if you're still there, if you're still marketing and holding your hand up saying we're still doing awesome and magnificent, amazing things and transforming lives for our employees and the community, people are going to be back out, and they're like, well, Amanda's company hasn't gone anywhere, and they stuck through it through the hard time, and they're still there. They must be quality. And that's why you can't stop marketing in whatever way you do market. Is it will turn around, and if you're not there, and if you lose momentum in the SEO or the SEM or whatever, people are like, well, I guess they didn't make it. That's a shame, but there's somebody down there, and we'll just go to them, and you will have lost a potential good opportunity. So I tell people, fight the urge to go dark, to get it to turtle up and go inside your shell and lock down, because that's not what winners do. And I think but Amanda, people need people like you to be around to remind them of that. And me, I mean, we have to urge people, saying, I know it sucks. But I don't want you to go away because I like you being here. And I know your
Yeah.
613 reviews tell me so do other people. Don't give
Right.
up. Figure out a way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Hmm. I love
Yep.
that. I love
Yep.
that. Um, as we kind of like wrap up our time, first of all, is there anything else that you wanted to cover today? Any other, I mean, you've dropped so many great little like truth bomb
Yeah.
moments here.
Yeah.
But anything else that you're like, you know what, I would be remiss if I left today and didn't say
Yeah.
this.
There is. I think a few things. I am part of a few organizations, and Amanda, I want you to surprise you probably, and maybe some others. I'm actually an introvert. I actually,
I
I
am
have,
too.
I have a certain amount of energy credits. I call them credit
Yep.
score tokens that
I
I can
love
do
it.
external things. Simon Sinek talked about an introvert and extrovert. An introvert is the one that if we have a dinner plan with 12 people tonight in Vegas and you're like, okay, I'll go. But if we get a text on the group saying, hey, we've canceled, I'm like, yes. So that's me. So, but
Too. I'm right there with you.
having said that, I believe that organizations and industry organizations and conferences that some people aren't tuned into those, they don't feel like they're for them. I think that they should be because the relationships that like you and I have met, and there's no telling where this is going to go.
Absolutely.
But the RIA, if that's your thing, or others, they have some regional ones, but get involved with those and see if they're for you because knowing that you're not the only one that's struggling, it's a pretty good medicine ball. I mean, that really, really,
Absolutely.
and then when you see people that aren't struggling, you can talk up to them and say, hey, what are you doing, man? What are you doing to keep up? And they might
Right.
say, I've got a great referral partner in, industrial hygienist gives us a lot of work. You're like, boom, I never
Right.
thought of that. And
Right.
that doesn't happen when you're at your desk on Xactimate arguing with the insurance companies. So I
Mm-hmm.
would tell people to do that. It's very rewarding because you're giving, but you're certainly getting. I'm part of
Mm-hmm.
the APA, the American Policyholder Association. It's a nonprofit that protects
Mm-hmm.
policyholders. That fulfills me because I feel like they're aligned with taking care of the same people that we do. And those things keep me up. We can choose every day, Amanda, to let the world program us or we program
Mm.
ourselves. That's an old Tony Robbins thing
Oh,
if you've never heard him. But
I haven't
there are a
heard
lot
that
of
one.
things, there's a lot of things trying to program you to fit their whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They want you to be down so that you buy their remedy. That's
Right.
fine. But be your own remedy, be your own person's up. And then when things come at you, their opportunities are not costing you anything and they're reciprocal.
Right.
But I would, we've talked a lot about the healing side of this industry because that's where we are. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that people and what we do at Restoration Advisors, and this is a little bit my Jocelyn, who marketing, would tell me, Clark, you didn't do any sales. I'm like, I know, I don't do sales. She does. She's like, no call to action or CTA. What I'll say, and I want to preface this with, don't tell her I said this. Even if you don't do this with us, I think in the struggles that restoration companies have right now with the things that we already mentioned, the program, TPA, insurance, the lack of money, client onboarding is something that we have really been focused on for 2 years now. It kind of started as a conversation, and that's really nothing more than that engaged interaction with the customer in the beginning to
Yeah.
start setting expectations, to
Yeah.
start identifying each other. Do we want to work? Are we going to be lovers or just friends? Or um, and then you can kind of say we do our best work when we follow these processes and these
Mm-hmm.
guidelines and these care. And I think that that's an area where so many people feel abused is they've done the work, they've done all,
Mm.
they showed up at 2 a.m, their crew busted their butt in Tyvek in the heat or the cold, and 2 a.m, and then they paid all their vendors and paid all their costs. And then there's like someone on the other end saying, well, I'm not going to pay you fully or at all or whatever it is. And that's very discouraging. It causes anger. But I think that you can control that a little more to change the narrative, to level the playing field with a
Yeah.
consumer homeowner business
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning, saying, these are sort of things that kind of happen. Having have done this 1,000 times, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, these
Yeah.
are some things I can suspect that are going to happen. I'm not going to talk bad about your insurance company, but they've got a process that, they've got their own, they want to keep as much as
Mm-hmm.
they can. They're a business. And you can tell them
Right.
saying, I need your help do your part. If I do mine, you'll do that. And we'll have a triangle of success and
Yeah.
maybe we can close this thing out. I think that is something I'm very passionate about, whether or not we have a course for that, we teach that, we train that. But if you even have an idea, say, maybe I don't do that so well, maybe start idealizing. That's an area where I think everyone could improve. Because when I teach that course, people say, excuse me, I knocked my microphone over. People say, I think I'm saying the right stuff, but now that I hear you give me all these other things, I'm not saying enough or the right way.
Yes.
So I would really encourage everyone to either go to restorationadvisors.com or chat GTP, ask it, how do I onboard customers? Do something. Don't do nothing.
Do something.
Do something.
Don't do nothing. Yes.
Plant that next row in the garden. Don't just skip it. Just plant it.
I love that. Okay, one more thing that I forgot to even mention to you. You wrote a book. What, has it been a year now? Has it been out?
I wrote it. I wrote and published it just after Christmas. So I took the month off. Here it is, 41 markers.
41 markers.
You can find it on Amazon, the paper copy if you like paper and kill trees, or if you want the Kindle. I'm finding the right voice for someone to do the Audible. It's not going to be me, but it is. I've had the skeleton of it for a year and a half on our website, and some of our team members said we find ourselves talking about those all the time, and there are 41 core principles and things that I think that make you stuff like that. So over my Christmas, I took the month of December off last year. I usually take December off with the family, and I can't just do nothing. So I sat and I created more depth to this 41 markers, and I came out of it and got with my team. I said, let's publish a book. And they're like, we don't know how to do that. And I'm like, we're going to know now. So we did. We're going to learn. We published a book and didn't know it. And that's another perk for anyone. You don't have to know how to do something. You just got to start, and it's going to show you. It's not doing it all is promise of the results, but I published a book. I wouldn't say we're doing it for money. I think most people that read it saying, I like it because it's easy to read and it makes us remind of things. So a book is a business card. Unless you're Stephen King or Danielle Steele, you're not, or J.K. Rowling, you're not going to sell 1 million copies.
Right.
And you don't make much per book. Just to drop a hint to everyone, you're making between $3 and $6. So if you sold 20 million, you might can buy a steak dinner. But what it is it's a way, it's another medium for you to say things you like to talk about in a way that people consume it, that might not watch videos, might not do Facebook. And it's been very good for us. It's been fun. It's been interesting. But I've given away more copies than I've sold. I'll be honest with you. I give a lot away.
I am honored that you gave one to me. And from what I haven't finished it yet, but I think I'm on 20. Yeah. I love it so far because, first of all, I mean, we're all so busy in our day. And sometimes I go, gosh, I know that there's such huge importance in professional development. And yet sometimes that's the hardest time to carve out. But even if I can just read one of the markers or read just a couple pages, it makes me go, okay, I've invested something so that I can go better serve those that I need to. And I love it because it's so digestible for that. I love it.
Amanda, I think I call it, you've got to hack the algorithm. So your brain gets on a matrix. I mean, again, we're mixing all these movie metaphors, but your brain gets caught into a rhythm. And sometimes you have to disrupt that. You have to stop it, slow it down, and take back control of your thoughts, because you end up being, I haven't done any of the things on my to-do list I need to do. And so I'm going to read one of them real quick. Our second one, the title is, and I learned this from a book I read with some nuns. This convent in Switzerland, they all, pretty much everybody there lived to be 100. And this reporter said, what makes you, obviously your diet and your, smoke and drink and all that, but what leads to this? And one of the nuns said, we are forced to, but we do it because we want. We read and learn every day. We keep our brain, the plasticity of our brain doesn't get thing. But what she said something that stopped me in my tracks. And she said, what we focus on here and what we recommend everyone is focus on not years in your life, but life in your years. You don't know
Mm,
how long you're going to be here. No one knows. We
yeah.
might not all live to 100. And regret is terrible. So use the years you've got, the good ones and the bad ones, and do the things. And don't have a bucket list that's 2 pages long. Have a bucket list that's 3 or 4 things. Do the things. People
Mm-hmm.
dying with a fortune or dying with a
Mm-hmm.
401k and having never done anything is kind of sad. Um,
Yeah.
your business can wait. It's going to be there when you get back. I know that when I leave my business and come back, it's still there. It didn't burn down. Sometimes it's done better without me.
Sure.
So that's one of them. And I saw a picture of yours, Phil McGirt from Australia. You know, Phil.
Yeah. Yeah.
Phil's got a copy. He said, "I'm just waiting for you to write an Australian version." I said, "We speak the same language." He said, "No, we speak much different than you do."
I could
But
see him saying that.
he is so out there. Most Australians, if anybody doesn't know, are a little wacky. Love you guys, but sorry, not sorry. But yeah, writing a book was not something that the 13 to 18-year-old self of me thought I would ever do, even the
Sure.
35-year-old. But it happened, and I've already got 2 more that I've got spinning
Oh,
around. And
awesome.
they're different. It's scary, but
Mm-hmm.
I think that I love to, do scary things, do hard things,
Do scary things.
do scary
Yes.
stuff. Rough seas make good sailors. The whole Jordan Peterson speech about that. But I think those things make a character of a person be able to get through anything. If you can prove to yourself that I did things that I didn't think I could do, then all the little things that we think we can't do, they become much smaller and they just become in the way.
Absolutely.
So I really do
Absolutely.
think a lot of people need to chase those things and not be in defensive mode and get offensive and take control of their life, their business, their relationships, and just be an assault, just be a SEAL Team 6 and just execute.
Right.
Because yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, when I have those like brain blocks, I always tell myself it's silly. I mean, it's a silly question, but and it you hear it all the time. But did you die? Except I say it too. Are you still going to be alive when you're done? Yep. Then what is the issue? And you did it. So stop blocking yourself. Mistakes. No one wants to fail. No one wants to make a mistake. But guess what? You're going to. And the sooner you just recognize and accept internally, I am imperfect in who I am and I'm going to make a mistake. And sometimes things are hard, but is it going to kill me? No. So let's just do it.
The truth is, a lot of people fear failure because they think other people are watching or see it. The truth is, very few people are really watching you. I mean, let's get over ourselves here.
Yes.
I know you're a parent. I'm a parent. I have always challenged my kids to fail quickly and hurt. I hate to admit this, but I told all of them, I want you to fall in love and get your heart broken early because you're going to do it eventually. Let's start figuring it out young so that you can start idealizing what relationships mean and what a person is really about. But I think the same thing in business. Let's get all the little failures out early. Let's hire the wrong people. Everybody's going to hire someone wrong. Let's buy a junker piece of truck that doesn't last a week. Let's buy the wrong equipment that doesn't last, whatever. Let's take this customer that we really wanted to help, but all the red flags told us not to. Everybody has that story. Everybody says the jobs I didn't take are the best jobs I ever did. So, but you can't just go there. You have to go through one bad one or a couple bad ones to start really training your brain to recognize. You can't just take someone else's advice and say, turn down red flags. Well, I don't know if it's red enough. It might be pink and it might be okay, but you go through a few of them. So that's just life. But the people that I know, Amanda, that have, let's just go restoration, very successful businesses. And this is almost unequivocally true, is there's about 4 or 5 characteristics that they all have, which are they've made the failures, they don't dwell on them, they keep going, they're decisive, they put people first. Some of those things, they know they can't build a $122 million a year company by themselves. They can't write every estimate. They have to trust people. So there's a handful of characteristics that I think that if everyone if you don't have those built in, you figure out somebody in your company that does. You can't change your stripes, but everybody wants to be successful. All of us in all of our life. Failure does hurt. Failure empties us. but the pursuit of doing something good can be the best part. Getting to the top of the mountain
Yes.
is not the best part. The
Right.
beautiful views and the flowers and the animals that you saw on the way up are what you remember, not standing for 8 minutes at the top. So that's
Yeah,
all
absolutely.
cliche. It sounds very consultish and very coachish, but it kind of works.
But it's true.
It is true. And sometimes I need to be
Absolutely.
reminded of that. I'm sure you do.
I do too.
Even knowing what I know,
Absolutely.
I get in the middle of my own BS and my drama, and I'm like, Clark, you're kind of not practicing what you preach. And you're like, ooh, thanks for the mirror there, buddy. But yeah, you just need that. You need a friend that'll slap you in the face and tell you the hard things, and you need that kind of stuff. And employees.
Absolutely.
You need employees that can tell you, saying, hey, boss, I'm going to hold you accountable. You've preached this, what we're going to do in our mission, our vision, but I don't see you doing that. It's probably not a fatal flaw, but you might not notice it, but you're in the middle of, you're doing, and you're like, oh, thanks for telling me. That's extreme ownership right there. That's a future superstar of my company.
Absolutely. I 100% agree.
But yeah, we're just plugging right along over here. I want to tell everybody, keep after it. You're going to eventually, hopefully, need Amanda and I. It might not be today, but we're not going anywhere. My pipeline is 18 months, Amanda. I don't know about yours, but it's about 18 months from when people find my content before they either hear something or find the courage to call. And I'm okay because 18 months from now, I'm going to need that business too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Klark, I'm so grateful for your wisdom and your time today, and just for being you, just being honest and relatable. And
you too.
I appreciate our conversation so much.
Same thing.
Just real fast for any of our listeners, if they are interested in diving into a little bit more conversation with you, or learning more about Restoration Advisors, what's the best place for them to reach out?
restorationadvisors.com. If I could ask you to put that link in the description.
I will.
ADVISERS. There is two. I didn't spell check mess up. It's actually I just couldn't buy the domain for OR. But restorationadvisors.com. There's a contact us there. It's just, form. We don't have I'll give my phone number if somebody wants it, but go through there. We'll get a hold of them. We have what's now called RBA. Everybody we throw into our academy. We have a free version, so there's no cost if you want to jump in there. It's limited, but we have a community, and it starts to kind of bring you into our ecosystem, into our universe, and you see some of the things that we offer, and it might be something you need. And then we have paid, they just go up in scale depending on where you are in your company size. But I would say those two things, and that puts you on our mailing list. And we do a lot of blogs, we do a lot of articles, and a lot of dad jokes or whatever you want to call it. But
you do, and I love them.
I just invite people into our world. I can't go to every other world, but we can create a universe where, communities. So Restoration Advisors, to contact us, dude, I'll throw a phone call for anybody. there's no obligation. If you just if I can solve a quick little issue, that's not a money thing. But it probably is going to plant the seed for maybe there's something in the future we can do. But so restorationadvisors.com, contact, or just click the real front button that puts you into the free, no credit card on file community and see what we're all about. Learn about us.
Awesome. Well, Klark, thank you so much. Hopefully we'll get to do this again soon, and it won't take us another 2 years to make it happen.
Won't happen.
Awesome. Well, thanks again to all of our listeners. We will see you next time on another episode of the Building and Branding Podcast.